everyone, it's Elizabeth here. So I wanted to do this video in regards to how to protect your mind and your belief systems from things that are going online. So it is obviously no secret today that the social media and the internet has changed people. It has changed our behavior. For the most part, it's made us monsters out of everybody. And a lot of this is because it's a lot of fueling of the ego. And when you do have certain things that start to filter into your ego, you have a lot of fear, anxiety, as well as fear mongering that goes into a lot of certain movements, systems, and belief systems. And I really think the human mind is only capable of having so much information before it starts to go on overload or overdrive. I mean, to some degree, we are like a computer, but we're not a computer. So we don't really necessarily have like unlimited storage of data in our mind. And, whatever gets filtered into your mind is going to affect your health, your well-being, your physical body, as well as the nervous system. I had a recent conversation a few weeks ago with a friend from Switzerland who is also kind of on the same wavelength as I am spiritually. So he's a very spiritually developed human being, and we both talked about how today we are no longer a part of any movement or any, like a club or a group to some degree, because the reality is, in order to be a part of some form of group, you have to be a part of their belief system, and you have to adopt certain things that go along with that belief system, and it might not always be healthy for you. So I've done so much research in so many different areas. I actually, haven't really done a ton of reading in feminism or watched like certain feminist group things, but I do know the law of attraction has its merits. So I've been doing a lot of analysis because I'm just so interested in human psychology and relationship dynamics, that you have these two ends of the spectrum of like feminism, and then you have the red pill man group, which are, it's like a group dating advice for men. And what I've noticed is through my analysis is that these groups tend to attract a lot of people who are damaged and are victims of being abused or used or, hurt by somebody of the opposite gender. And a lot of times when you have people who are fueling all of this information to these individuals, it's starting to become fanatical, or it's starting to radicalize people to where they're adopting these belief systems. Like a lot of feminism think that all men are assholes, and that, when shit happens, it's always the man's fault. And then you have the other end of the spectrum, which, they think the men are thinking all women are here on this modern era to date and divorce guys to get half of their portfolio, talking like it's some business transaction. And, women are just here to use and abuse like the beta male and use them as their little teddy bear while they're going out and sleeping with the alpha male. And so a lot of this is getting into people's heads, and it's fucking people up, and as well as dividing people even more than we're already divided in this gender war. So I'm just saying this as an example. I used to work at a vegan cafe when I was in college in my undergraduate degree, and the vegan animal activism community has always attracted some form of like radicalized people. But for the most part, you just had a lot of like normalized people that loved plant-based food, that loved the planet, and didn't want to see animals being abused. But now, you go on the internet and you go on some vegan website or like Facebook group, and these people are so bloody hateful. They hate everybody who eats animals except for maybe like their mom and dad or brother and sister. And so a lot of it has this like double standard, but people just jump into this bandwagon of whatever group or belief system that they're a part of, and then they kind of become radicalized, and that changes the lens of society. So like I've been down the rabbit hole, years ago on certain things where it's like if I saw everything through the glass half empty lens, it's like I just saw all of the poverty, the heroin in Seattle, how dirty and disgusting the city has gotten. And a lot of that is very true. But if you start to switch the lens and start to focus on some of the positives, you get to see some of the soul and some of the beauty that still remains in the city, although it's starting to become in its minority. So I want to encourage you that no matter what area of life that you're in, is that you pull back a little bit from whatever belief system or video or groups or YouTube shit that you follow, and start to see things from two sides of the story. Or if you're really, if you listen to far left progressive politics, maybe you need to go and read the stuff that's on the opposite end of the spectrum and try to formulate, more ideas that come to the center in the middle. I've done videos on this before. I think extremism is what is ruining the planet because it fuels the ego. The ego wants to be right. It wants to be seen. It wants to be heard. And that's where it's like you're just throwing, gasoline into the fire, and then suddenly it erupts. And that's how a lot of war and all this shit has happened in the past. It's like this overdrive of the ego, and today we have to really start to tame that animalistic side of us, taming and shedding our ego, and really start to look inward, trying to develop more of our gentle side. And I'm not saying we can always walk through life being gentle, like if a terrorist comes and holds a gun to your head, saying namaste is not going to save you. You might have to fight back, but it's trying to go through life with as little damage and carbon footprint on human emotions as possible. If you believe in saving the planet and you go through life trying to reduce your carbon footprint, think about your carbon footprint on other people and their emotions and your thought process. I'm just so curious on this whole world of dating because deep down, I think a lot of people are miserable and they are suffering because they are alone, and the quality of people have gone down. And, you have a lot of men that say, like, women suck, and you have a lot of women that say men are assholes. And to some degree, there's truth on both ends of the spectrum, but you can't just go around blindly thinking, like, all women are crazy. It's like you have a very immature view on and understanding of femininity and the human emotions. Women are emotional creatures, and so are men. A lot of men aren't, but most men need some form of emotional support, and that's why we have this rise and development of the man-child today. It's because it's like these guys are still like getting emotionally supported by their mother, but then when they try to date somebody, it's like dating a little boy, and it's just not going to work. And it's like there's a difference between being crazy and being sensitive and emotional. So a lot of people have to develop themselves, and it's an absolute shame that a lot of like conservative men are going down this hole of thinking women are absolutely shitty and stuff like that. It's because like women are sick of this shit, and this is why feminism has started to come on the rise. It's like they're not wanting to be your piece of property where it's like, you just service them in the food, by cooking them food and servicing them with sex whenever you want. It's like you can hire a prostitute to have sex whenever you want. You know what I mean? It's like we have feelings too and all this stuff. So mind manipulation it is so imperative to guard your mind. I just wrote a blog on this on March 24th. I'll link it down below. You have to become aware but not get sucked down the vacuum. You have to understand is that if somebody is trying to promote an ideology or a movement or a system, they have to rile you up a little bit in order to start to bring the cash flow in. Generally, people are making a lot of money off of the positivity industry, but for the most part, when it's a lot of like negativity and bashing, that's where it's really easy to start to sell stuff because negativity breeds negativity, and a lot of people are in a belief system where it's like, yeah, the world is going down the tubes and this, that, and the other. And so it's just really good to understand and watch and read things from a rational, logical, analytical mindset, but really discern if this is healthy for you. Because the reality of today, if you have any form of spiritual backbone or any sort of spiritual understanding today, is that this divide and conquer philosophy is very real. And it's happening not only on the political spectrum, it's happening in the workplace, and it's happening on interpersonal relationships. So do you want to be a part of that crowd and a part of that sheep that continues to divide us? Or do you want to pull back and get the fuck out of those systems, focus on yourself, develop yourself and your belief systems, and start to take some responsibility for your emotional health and for some of the things that you do attract? I think we have to take responsibility on both sides. I've met a lot of great people while I've been single, but they haven't been mature enough, or, they still wanted to stay stuck down the rabbit hole of certain things, like, just being like a party person, and that's fine. And it's like I could continue to follow that and chase it, or I could just walk away and accept the situation for it is and just let reality be reality. So this is the first step to mind control and mind manipulation. I wanted to share some of these examples because I think it is happening. There are sheep in every single movement and every single philosophy on the interwebs. And it's really, really important. And even in the whole, I have people who've yelled at me about the whole like abundance realm, because you have so many gurus that go out there and talk like you could do this 30-day meditation and attract abundance in 6 figures. And I'm like, is that the truth? Or is that a system that's being promoted for somebody to make a shit ton of money by confusing and manipulating a lot of people that something like this works? I do believe God and the universe and such is abundant, and they want you to have abundance, but I just think that individually we all have our own soul growth and development and our own soul contract to go through life. And some of us have to go through hardship and to be poor before we enter the stages of abundance. And that might not happen overnight in the click of a button. God is not a genie. And so you have to read things and discern what is your own truth and what is also a lot of fear and negativity that is affecting you in your belief systems. So don't get sucked down the rabbit hole on a lot of stuff. I mean, if we talk about something like flat earth, it's the same thing in fitness. There's always some stupid diet trend that comes out and everybody jumps on the bandwagon, and then they set themselves up for failure because they go too extreme or they just don't know what they're doing. It's like when paleo came out, you had a lot of doctors and stuff promoting it. Who knows if they were actually really advocates for paleo or they were just getting paid a shit ton of money to write a book so they can get all of you sheep on the little bandwagon and keep like trailing you along. So anyways, these are some thoughts that I have. This is part 1. Part 2, I'll kind of talk a little bit more of like about the actual logistics of some mind manipulation and things like that. But protect your mind. It is the most manipulative tool that we have in our body, is to manipulate the mind. And when we don't have control of our mind, that's where a lot of danger happens. Not only danger, I guess, within ourselves and destruction, but destruction within society. A lot of people who are committing all these mass murders and stuff like that today, their minds are tweaked to believe whatever they want, or they're in this belief system that people are out to get them or to hate them, or that they're some victim of something without taking responsibility for themselves, and then going out and shooting a bunch of people or shooting a school. So protect your mind, protect yourself, and just be cautious and careful with what you are absorbing. So if you have any thoughts, please, you could list a comment or a question down below. We can all learn from each other. If you can subscribe to this channel to help me build it. You can also support me on Patreon. So thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Bye.